Welcome to the AutoSuccess Executive Spotlight. I'm your host, Brian Ankney. Today, my guest is Mark Queen from Skai Vision. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Yeah, thank you for coming. I've been hearing a lot about what you're doing with artificial intelligence. So can we start with just telling me a little bit about yourself and your team and what you're doing?
Sure.
Yeah.
25 years here in designing, installing, and selling automotive software applications, along with most of our team. Most of us have been together long term. What we're doing now with artificial intelligence is a whole lot less about my expertise than our team's. In fact, our CTO and co-founder, Jason Failing, has over 30 years putting top-notch, large, commercial, scalable automotive applications out. And along with our middleware, UI, API teams have been long-term with us, as well as our field team. But the kind of the new magic for us is our AI team, since each of those folks has literally over 10 years, primarily in computer vision. So we're learning something new every day.
Wow, so computer vision, is that how autonomous vehicles drive?
Yes, exactly. Whereas with autonomous vehicles, you're teaching a vehicle to think like the best drivers on the road, in terms of maintaining proper spacing, alerting if danger's coming from one side or the other. What we're doing is similar in that we're teaching a system to think like the best operators in automotive. So what would those, using the cameras as eyes, what would those managers look for on a transaction by transaction basis if they had the time to look at every single transaction every day?
Okay, so you're essentially, correct me if I'm wrong, you're trying to help them to inspect what they expect across the entire dealership on every single transaction level.
Yes, inspect what you expect is a pretty overused term, but it's what everybody wants to do. But let's face it, who has the time to truly inspect enough transactions to know what might be out of whack here or there, and to know consistently not what the outliers are, but what the real patterns are.
So you're doing this with cameras. Most dealerships already have some form of cameras. How's that work?
Correct. Yes, they've already invested in cameras, primarily though for security usage after hours. What we're doing is trying to monetize things during business hours. And so the cameras they have are really more or less a dead expense until and unless something goes wrong or goes missing. Whereas we are using them for efficiency during the workday.
I know when you mentioned that when you were starting this business that you talked to a lot of dealers about what they wanted next. Where did they ask you to start?
Cycle time for service has been the overwhelming priority. The ability to compress maintenance operations for waiters has been huge, because there is really no way to, except for customer surveys right now. That's traditionally been the data point for how long the experience was for the customer. And that's inaccurate on two levels. A lot of times the dealerships get dinged for what the customer thought. How many customers really look at when they came in and when they left for a maintenance operation? And the software can't really tell the story, because a customer could be there 15 minutes waiting to get written up before our repair order is actually created. And on the flip side, they could be there 15 minutes after the RO is already closed for exit, delivery, payment, car wash, etc. So we're really the first way that we can objectively tell the cycle time. You can really do that with just two cameras, an entrance camera and an exit active delivery camera. You can get an accurate cycle time, and that measurement of reality has been our number one ask from the dealers so far, because it feeds into okay, if our reality is really at 1 hour and 50 minutes for the average oil change, and we thought it was running 1 hour and 10, what's the cause of that? And we can drill down and see, is it during the staging and check-in and the write-up process? Is it the time from write-up to rack? Is it the time on rack that could be issues? And at certain times of day or certain days of the week, or certain stalls. And then it also could be the exit process and the payment process at the end of that. So cycle time has so many variables that don't always translate store to store, market to market, that it's tough. So that's been the biggie for us so far.
Wow, I mean, that makes sense. I mean, because if all you had to measure it by was the customer self-reporting how long they were there, I mean, I bet if you asked 100 people how long their service took, 99 of them are going to say too long, right? I mean, nobody said, boy, they did it so quick that, I kind of wanted to hang out a little more.
Yes, that's the key. I mean, let's face it, time is the customer's most precious commodity, all our most precious commodity these days. We've certainly proven that if something is consistent and it's fast, we'll pay more for it. Via Amazon every week at your door. And I think dealers, OEMs, and customers are all aligned on time being the number one driver in the decision.
I want to just ask a little bit more about the cycle time. I mean, let's circle back to that just for a moment. How do you start that measurement? Where do you start that measurement? How do you end it? Can you go over that again?
Great question. As long as you have a camera that catches the cars as they're coming into service and you acquire that vehicle as it's coming in, we can instantly take that plate, translate the VIN, and we can actually check the customer in faster with that payload than the typical process of coming in and either with a notepad or a tablet. What's your phone number? What's your name? Did you have an appointment? That the greeting's an awkward piece of the write-up. So we can check them in quicker, we acquire it then, and we can then look at the used cameras in the lane, in the shop, car wash, active delivery to close the gap and to know exactly where the opportunities are.
Well, that's awesome. So not only are you finally getting a very accurate measurement, but you're also able to diagnose any problems because you're tracking it from start to finish.
Yes, yeah,
that's great.
It definitely varies from dealership to dealership.
So, other than CSI and cycle time, like what else are the cameras doing?
That same entrance camera to acquire the vehicle also is feeding the number one sales ask we're having, which is to increase street purchases. And we can take the inbound license plate read and we can analyze whether that is a high-value target vehicle, and we can either engage the exchange team immediately, or more popular is to go ahead and make the customer the vehicle exchange specialist and text the appropriate offer to the customer in a legally compliant opt-in way. Because let's face it, most customers, if you knew it wasn't going to take you any longer for your service to be at the dealership and you're already there, and you knew you weren't going to have to be pressured with a salesperson in your face, if the dealership lets you know that they were willing to write a check to you that day for the vehicle, who wouldn't want to know how much? So we're seeing a large hand raiser percentage there in accompanying conversion.
Nice. So it helps you to kind of make that offer to every customer that comes in the door.
Correct.
As opposed to maybe cherry picking and missing a lot of the ones that you'd like to talk to.
Absolutely. And without having to physically engage and use resources you don't have to appraise every vehicle physically, lets you drill down on who's gonna really want to trade.
Cool. Well, now the cameras that are already in the dealerships were put up for security. We're adding all this AI to it. Like, what does it change? Like, what does it still work for security? Does it change security?
Yes, it does not change any of the current use case. Now, we do have security artificial intelligence asks. In fact, we just released the customer fall, which is a liability and safety issue for employee or customer fall detection. The Q1 next year, firearm detection will roll out. Unfortunately, that's a reality that not many dealer principals wouldn't want to know at any of their stores when guns out. Another one is when a vehicle leaves the dealership with no plate, no D tag, no customer tag. That's normally theft. So the artificial intelligence can help on the security side, although our uses for the camera are business efficiency.
Right. So Mark, how do the employees feel about a program like this? I mean, are there any concerns over Big Brother and being monitored?
Well, they need to know exactly what it does, and that we found that's the key, because once they understand that there is no facial recognition, there are no names, employee or customer associated with the AI, there is no PII involved in it, and they really want to know, does it know when I come into work and leave? Does it know how much time I spend looking at my phone, at social media? Does it know how many breaks I take? Once they know it can't do any of that, then you basically, the way we frame it is, would you agree that smart camera, not useless camera, is the better option? And the employees roundly always agree that, yeah, if the camera was smart and could be a true assistant to me, we would want that and welcome that.
Yeah.
And so typically you ask them, what would you want it to do exactly? And they're the same use cases that are the feature set today. Mm-hmm. I'd like it to tell me if it could just give me a quick nudge, vibrate in my pocket when the car wash is backed up, or lose track of a customer and they're not greeted or attended to in a certain amount of time, or a vehicle gets lost and spends too much time on a stall. Once they see it as assistive and know that it only does the things that the 6 use cases that are there, they think of it more as, little brother than big brother, and nobody fears their little brother. They put them to work like we've done the AI. And I think that a big piece of our company DNA is that we have adopted a 3-part litmus test, so that there is no trigger or artificial intelligence alert that doesn't pass 3 main metrics. Number 1 is, does the customer agree this is something that needs addressed, that is a challenge, and that the customer wants to be handled better? Mm-hmm. Number 2, does the frontline employee, the technician, advisor, sales rep, sales manager, agree that this is an opportunity that we need to address and that AI can be assistive with? And then number 3, does the dealer group agree that this is truly net profit worthy, training dollar worthy, pay plan component worthy, that it's a mission critical piece? I mean, who could argue that tracking a vehicle from the time it gets there to the time it leaves for a cycle time is invasive? That's a pretty hard argument to make.
Well, I'll bet no one has ever stood up in a meeting and say, "But wait a minute, I love doing data entry." Like,
true.
Yeah, don't preload the vehicle for me. I want to type that.
Right. That's a biggie. Once the other piece is the employees have to understand this is not yet another system, that there is no data input, there are no tasks, there's nothing except assistive alerts, and being able to look at a dashboard and see where the patterns are with those alerts. So once they understand there's no more work to it, that's a big hurdle as well.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience today, Mark?
Really, we think that the dealerships that we're engaging with now in the dealer groups, that it's almost deja vu back to the CRM. Those that we installed very early in 2001, 2002, 2003, we saw those groups that really got a handle on how they could work by appointment with showroom floor, phone, and this new internet lead activity. Those groups were able to profitably acquire and grow their portfolios at a different rate. Mm-hmm. And we see that now, that getting a handle on the artificial intelligence data, because we were seeing that it does get smarter once you tell it exactly what you're looking for, and the things that are net profit worthy to or mission critical to one group that they want the system to look for may be different than another group. But once they start that, there is a lot of data needed to get it right. And so the early adopters are going to definitely have an advantage.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it seems like, I mean, in any dealership, no matter what your goals are, everybody's goal is probably better cycle time. And if you've got 12 places that could be the bottleneck, and maybe it's a different bottleneck every day, it seems like through computer vision, you'll know what your problem is on Tuesday. You'll know what your problem is on Wednesday. Maybe somebody's coming back late from lunch on Thursday because they go meet their wife. But you could identify all of those things like that, right?
Absolutely. You're spot on with the cycle times. And a big reason is that the camera doesn't take a day off or a minute off, and it's completely objective. What it locates are the patterns that you give it. And that's really the type of, the difference in the types of artificial intelligence, because you've got language models like ChatGPT that it's not a freeform. We're not asking artificial intelligence to freeform anything at the dealership. It's hard to control those boundaries. We're not asking it to generate any content or deep fake type material. We're simply using a convolutional neural network, which all it does is locate patterns. Think your radiologist and how the AI in healthcare helps it spot cancer. It's going to save so many lives because it's locating patterns. Same with the type of AI that's used with pattern recognition in flight autopilot on an aircraft. What we're doing is we're locating the patterns here with the cycle time, and a very wise owner once told me, used to constantly say, you will not manage that which you cannot measure. And to this point, we haven't been able to manage or measure in the first place accurate cycle time bottlenecks. And so that's why the good news is that the cycle times are improving at dealerships from the time we come in to the time the focus begins and the process tweaks begin. So we're encouraged, and that's why the roadmap is pretty extensive.
Excellent. It sounds like the sky's the limit.
Hey, that's you hit it on the head.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming today, Mark.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you for taking the time to join us for this AutoSuccess Executive Spotlight. I'm your host, Brian Ankney. Today, my guest has been Mark Queen from Skai Vision. We hope to see you again soon. This episode is Over the Curb and Burning Gas.